discussion. Comments will come first, then we'll cover the item and then vote if it's a vote. And we took virtual comments and email comments in advance. If they come 24 hours before the meeting, they get attached to the agenda for all three. So let's see. Okay, fine. Yeah, then we also have public comment on non-agenda items that will come up at the end of the meeting. We have comments on a few agenda items, which I will call at the appropriate time. All right, Dr. Williams, statement of the principal.
Just walk our student out.
Oh, yeah,
Get it right now. 2 seconds, sorry.
No problem. This will be item 6. All right, Dr. Williams, you are up for item 6, statement of principal.
Could you repeat that?
Just you're up for principal statement. So anything you'd like to share regarding anything at all? Probably your school or any of the other schools.
Dr. Williams, you're up for the principal statement for ELOP Summer School, because we just had your ELOP student present. So every summer, the first principal that presents is the summer school principal. So thank you for joining us tonight,
Okay,
ELOP Summer School.
Okay, all right, thank you. And it was a pleasure, serving, I guess, Ari and many other students at the school. It was a great experience. Serving as principal gave me the whole picture of running the school and Greg, Zach, some of their guys, backing me with support. Great experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 7, statement of the superintendent.
Great. All right. Welcome back to our first board meeting of the year. It has been a busy summer. This is our busy time. Everybody says, how was vacation? And we say, we'll let you know in October when we take them. We did 2 days with our California School Boards Association, updating our policies that you will see coming forward in the next few meetings. We had a wonderful administrative retreat for 2 days. We have new staff orientation coming up this week. And then next week we kick it off with our welcome back. So everything's going pretty fast. There's been a lot of hiring, which you've seen in the board packets. Our administrator's been very busy doing a lot of hiring and interviewing, and shout out to HR for getting all of that done. It was a lot of work, so big lift for that. So thank you for everybody. And another big transition, so big change for our fiscal department and HR department. And as of July 1, all of San Mateo County changed over to a new fiscal and HR portal. So overnight they had to flip. So there's a lot of pre-work and rework, and everybody, all of our staff was very patient with everybody, and it was just not that many big things. So that was great. So thank you to everybody, and appreciate all the work that people have put in, reading paychecks and numbers line by line. So thank you to everybody who did all of that work. So it's been a long summer. It went by quick, but we're excited to get everybody back, and we cannot wait. We're pretty sure we're not gonna have one late person to the welcome back, because the swag this year is awesome. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Marla. Item 8 is consents. Consent agenda is items that we consolidate that we view as business as usual for the board. It's all been posted and we all review it, but we vote as a block on the consent agenda. However, anyone can remove any item from consent if there's if they'd like to do that, and if anyone would like to consider, that's fine. there a motion?
Second.
Great, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. Thank you. All right, item 9, education part 1 is 25-26 EIS bell schedule and instructional minutes. And we have Greg Land.
Give me a sec.
First of all, yeah, public comment from Brian McCall.
Brian, I'm sorry, first, did you see the changes to the bell schedule? There should be a paper copy for you available.
I saw the one attached to the meeting minutes,
Do we have a paper
or the
one?
meeting agenda.
Did you bring paper ones?
Yeah.
Okay. Brian, there was a change made this afternoon because there was a clerical error. I'm sorry if you
Oh,
were not
sorry.
given that prior. They did find a clerical error in it. Were we able to give that to Brian? Okay.
Well,
I just want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date copy too.
It might not have had a chance.
Matt, can you summarize the change? for
Yeah,
Brian?
so the change that was made was, all passing periods are now made to 4 minutes. And also in the minutes originally presented, the one that's in the document, passing periods are not counted as instructional minutes, which they should be. So the minutes, became larger. I can tell you exactly what they became.
I do have a copy of the instruction.
Okay.
minutes
Thank
for
you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks very
So
much.
that was the update, that all the passing periods were changed to 4
How
minutes.
lucky is
And
that?
instructional minutes were now counted, passing.
Okay, I'll still give my.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian.
So good evening. I am here to discuss within the BIS bell schedule, the insufficient time being allocated for lunch. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the California Department of Education recommend at least 20 minutes of seated time to eat lunch, not counting time spent traveling or waiting in line. Your own board policy 5030 on wellness elevates healthy eating as foundational to learning, stating the board recognizes the important connection between a healthy diet and a student's ability to learn effectively. Further, that schools play a vital role in promoting healthy eating, providing adequate space and pleasant surroundings to eat meals. The policy further states the importance of promoting staff wellness. Today, BIS schedules, I guess now 34 minutes, as of yesterday it was 33, including passing time on the bell schedule. By the time students travel, queue, and get served, many don't come close to 20 minutes of seated eating time. It's not hypothetical. BIS enrolls over 1,160 students, with roughly 776 and seventh graders eating at the same time. Lines can exceed 500 students and some wait upwards of 20 minutes before seeing any food. The result is predictable. Students rush or skip lunch. Some only drink the sugar sweetened chocolate milk that our board has changed, which undermines nutrition, focus, and learning. Further, to promote staff wellness, lunch should be a meaningful break for employees, not just a rushed interval between students. As shown on the back, the Wellness Committee put together a list of all public middle schools in San Mateo County. I should note the Pacifica data, which tied at 33 minutes for the lowest. That data was 2018, so I'm not sure if that's up to date. But it's even at 34 minutes, it's possible we're either second or we are the lowest. The shortest lunch in the whole county of all middle schools. Our shortest lunch period is out of step with best practices in the Bureau policy. At our 2025 Wellness Committee, comprised of students, parents, staff, teachers, and community stakeholders, the group reviewed these facts, the federal guidance, the state guidance, and our conclusion was unanimous. BIS needs a longer lunch period to meet its own wellness needs of students and staff and bring our policies or practices in line with the CDC recommendations, the state recommendations, and the district's goals. I urge the board to adjust the BIS schedule to provide more time for lunch. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Greg?
Hi. Yep, we do. Matt, do you need an intro or you just need it?
I mean, this is Greg reading his minutes for the year. It's, like I said, I've already made the two adjustments, or said the two adjustments that were made, I'll say them again. That we went to 4 minutes per passing period, and passing period were counted as instructional.
And just want to say that that was something that I was committed to teach students, because they really into principal advisories a couple of years in a row, really wanted that. So I really am happy that we can honor that. I think it's so important. All right, let's dive right in. You already know your mission and vision. Let's go to Jesse. Sorry, trying to crack the whip. All right. So we want to give a little bit of background. Yeah, no, you're right. Next one, right there. So I do want to go a little bit into the background, because since I got to BIS, this is one of the first things that I started talking to the staff about, to the students about, to the PTA about, parents, because we wanted to make the most optimal schedule. And let's go to the next slide. So we explored a lot of the different options. We talked about Trojan time, and I would say that I had been part of Trojan time in its inception, over there, not over here, and talking about why we had it, like talking about Genius Hour, talking about, giving opportunity for kids to get involved with that really passionate about. Trojan time, by the time I got to see it, very much altered and changed, and it was very disorganized, and there were some really great things happening and some really not so good things happening. And so what we did was, with the Trojan time, in the first year, what we did was we used it for our Olympics. So we really try to give purpose, and that's when kids got to work with their groups during Trojan time to talk about the countries that they created, the backgrounds. And so we gave structure to something that at the time before I was there gave structure to it. But we started evolving to but we need to have more instructional minutes, and that was something that was coming loudly, resounding, not just from the board a couple of years ago, but also from our teachers and people that were saying, hey, we need more instructional minutes. Our instructional minutes are really too small. So what we did was we really spent that first year going and reviewing other school districts. We looked at Ralston Middle School, Proctor, even my old school block. We looked at other ones, Cunha. We looked at a lot of different schedules. And in this room, we really tried to formulate ideas of what we thought was good and elements that we thought were really positive. We came to the community, we came to the board last year, and we came up with a schedule, and that wasn't good enough. We needed more, and the direction of the board was to have more instructional minutes. And so we had a summer committee, met in summer of 2024 to collect the data that we had and really look at what was options that were available. We had a hard time struggling with what we could do. We tried to make a recommendation, and the best recommendation we did was the mixed block schedule, which is what we have today. All right, next slide. With a mixed block schedule, it's a Monday, Thursday, Friday, 1 through 7 periods, but Tuesday, Wednesday have a block schedule, which means you have even day, which is 2, 4, 6, and 1, 3, 5, 7 on the Wednesday block. The reason for this is really having instructional minutes during a large block of time. And we'll go into some of the details in some of the rationale later, but that was some of the logic that really people wanted to not just expand a 1 out of 7 period, but have a really extended period so that it could be very useful. And I'll go into some of the research behind that. So key ideas. So one of the first ones was to have longer periods you can really go in depth. And in instruction, you have more inquiry-based and hands-on sessions. There's lots of research that go into the 75 to 95 minutes, really give you time to do a full lab when you're doing science, really gets you into creative writing. It gives you extended time to be able to do not just writing and drafting something, but going over and correcting and working with editing groups and working with trying to change things and make things and talk to people about things. In all different subjects, even in math, you can do some hands-on activities rather than just here's the lesson, here's the lecture, let's do the problems. You can really go into discovery learning and really do like Mars tasks. And Desmos is one of the things that in science and in math we get to use, models to be able to use. And they take a time because discovery learning isn't something that happens like immediately. You need to have that time to talk about it, discuss it, discover it. Like, and so when teachers present things like, here's a problem, and there's not a real answer in math, it's like, wait a minute, just tell me what the formula is. No, you want to get them thinking critically, and you need to give them that time. So having extended block time is really important for this reason. And so, and having reduction in transitions, we increased the 4 minutes, which is great, and I love it, because the kids wanted that. But increasing the instructional time is critical. It gives more focus and gets you a deeper knowledge and higher acquisition of knowledge. And that's research done in the research points here. Next slide. Engagement and focus. One of the cool things that I think really happens is you get a more manageable workload. Your homework, you get actually time to really complete a thought, and complete the project, and complete what you're doing, rather than just, okay, now we have to stop and move on. A lot of times that stop-start really is problematic. And so having this time to extend that engagement, you have that focus. That's why we want to have more extended times like this. So increased engagement, that research shows that. Reduced stress, actually. Some kids might say, oh my God, it's so long. But what happens is this stress, because you're going from thing to thing to thing. When you have a 7-period day, you're like, okay, what am I doing in first period? What am I doing in second? What am I doing in third? By 7 periods, you're like, okay, what am I having homework in third period? I forgot, unless you write it down. So having the extended time, at least partially, 2 days out of the 5, really gives that kind of, okay, it does reduce stress. Right. The third one is building relationships. And this is something that I'm going to touch with Dawn on. Dawn and I had a conversation about, in the high school has a full block schedule. They have Monday 1 through 7, odd, even, odd, even. So they're doing a full schedule. So we're preparing them for what VHS has, and they're not going to go away from that. Again, they've looked at the research, they see what happens. And one of the things that Dawn and I were talking about is when you have less contact, when you see the kids that you know more than anyone else, you connect with them. Having those kids with those teachers are very important. And building relationships is very important. And that really, that collaboration time even is also good for the teachers as well. But building better student relationships is having those extended times. You're with them longer. And it really is good for the kids to build those longer relationships, with the teachers. And the teachers need to be there, Now we have to make sure we have really great teachers who are really doing that. That's important. But, that's what I think is critical here. And that's one of the key ideas. The holistic well-being. What's interesting? I was talking to the former principal here, Pam Scott, and Pam Scott brought this post here to talk about bringing an extended schedule and having a more sane schedule. So amusingly enough, this is not new. This was done at BIS many moons ago. And one of the reasons why it was brought is because of the research that Denise Cook did at Stanford and talked about having a more saner school day. And so that is something that was brought from our past and I'm trying to bring back. And so again, those are some of the reasons why we landed on block schedule. And just kind of, the one that really I think needs to be done is that last one where it says increase student attendance and decrease the disciplinary referrals. That has been proven at the high school district. That's proven with us. That is just by fact data right there. So having those block schedules really report a decrease in absences. Now, let's move on. This one, it gives more empowerment to what you're teaching. And I'm going to ask, Charlie, do you want to come up and just, yeah, come on up. Sorry, I'm forcing you. But this example is someone, who has some insight into, well, why am I changing? And I'm just going to let him tell the story, but I love his story.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Guys hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the schedule first appeared last year, I was not
I know.
initially in favor of it. So I was like, okay, because I was one of those guys who wanted, more contacts. This is it, we need to, gotta deliver the content, right? And got standards we have to make sure we cover and all that. And the first trimester we had was all 7 classes every day, okay? And Tuesday of the first schedule was pretty manic. We had just 32 minutes, just going through, we knocks it down, talked over for minutes, they're packing up again, off they go. And I think what we've got now is a schedule that really allows us all to kind of relax a little bit on days. If we've got this early dismissal on Tuesday, we're really maximizing the time we have with kids during those 2 days. Now, everything's a trade-off, let's just be honest. I mean, like, budget of money, right? I've got budget of time, how are we gonna spend this time? And I've been in quite a few different schedules, I've been in BIS here since the time of mine. We had at one point, 5 schedules, 5 period day, 5 others I would rotate. A lot of configurations. This one really is the best compromise. I mean, it really is. It's not perfect. There is no perfect schedule. If there was, nobody ever changed. We have a lot of, we'll split up the same schedule, all approximation. But I think lately we kind of prioritize student relaxation and contacts and experiences with teachers and each other. Sometimes kids want to talk to each other. Situations. And I think this gives them that opportunity to kind of relax a little bit for those Tuesday and Wednesday, and have extended time, work on the homework together, talk to each other, know each other better instead of go. So I became a bit of a conflict here during the school year. That's from the student's point, from the teacher's point of view. There are some trade-offs. Just be honest. Go for it. I'm gonna lay it out there. There's no prep on one of those each. So, 2, 4, 6, and your prep is say my time, 3rd. I go all day Tuesday. I start at 8:40. Yeah, and later I have an hour plus on staff. No prep time, all go. I get the point, right? 30 minutes for lunch. Yeah, it was pretty much. But the next day it's wonderful. The plan that I did on Tuesday is already in place. I have a few more plans to do. I've got this nice long prep in the middle of the day where I can really kind of think about stuff and get in contact. Because we don't have that much time. We're prepping for the next day. We don't have enough time to talk to each other about our stuff. So this does allow us to have time to talk to each other. So there's that trade-off. On the other hand, if after Wednesday, no prep day, that's all. Because they'll teach you tell you it's a long day. So I would rather my long day be sort of meetings where I'm not necessarily having to be revved up and going to kids. So for me, Tuesday's a good day to have my prep day. We've got different feelings about it. But again, everything's a trade-off. I like the schedule. I do. I think everybody's got this sort of tug between deliver the content and make relations with kids.
Can I just say one thing? You mentioned something to me that I love. When we talked about it a while ago, you said, hey, I'm trying some things that I never tried. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So when it came down, we had this, extended period on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I'm like, okay, so I've got this new reality. How do I take advantage of it? And what I decided to do was, you can't really start a new lesson, 50 minutes into a new period. You can't say, okay, now we're going to change gears and start something completely different. So I kind of decided that extended period would be something other than, content delivery. For me, it's like a debate or whatever they prepare for. But a lot of review is what I do in history. This problem with school is check, move on. And they don't remember what they learned just a few weeks ago because you're such a rush to get to the next thing. So I decided to slow down a little bit, do some review games with them, just kind of relax and have some sort of almost enrichment opportunities during that time period, rather than try to introduce new things and go into depth. My favorite was that Oregon Trail. We had an Oregon Trail tournament in my classroom that needed an hour and a half to make it really kind of play out. And it was for me, this was entertaining. Anyway, it gives us opportunities to do different things. is, which is nice, but not every teacher is necessarily geared for that. Some teachers, you talk to different content teachers, a math teacher, for example, like, let's go, I've got lots I've got to check. So different teachers will get different responses, but so far so good. I like it. I'm glad to do it again this year. Our teacher rep, if you can say it, this point, hold myself as rep for a second. I think we really do need to talk about it at the end of this year. Really get some significant feedback. Okay, guys, been 2 years. Your thoughts, your feedbacks, and tweaks. I do like the 4-minute period passing. The 1 to 6th graders, I'm trying to get them down here to up there. I mean, these poor kids. I mean, they just this year better with PE because they're sprinting. So but you know, the 8th graders know they've got their time down. They don't does fit 4 minutes. I'm not sure about the 5-minute, whatever that lunch where you can come down on that, but you know, full judgment, but
Well, you prep me for the rest of my presentation on that stuff.
go ahead.
No, but he prepped me for next steps, and so if we can keep going. That's just the sources again. No, you're good. You're fine. So those are just the resources. Here is our survey. So our climate survey that we do in 7th grade every year, and just really looking at, well, what different schedules do we have? So you know that before, so I'd say the highlight was you go to 2021 pre-COVID, yes, right? And then 20, you know, sort of COVID, past COVID, so just past COVID, and then a few years after. So looking at the research, I mean, over the change over time, you really start seeing an increase over the last few years of different things. Trying to work harder in schools, +5 over time, +6, +4. So if you look at the kids' answers in aggregate, you're looking at growth. You're looking at, hey, these guys are really looking at things in a positive way overall. And for one, you know, if you look at school is worthless and a waste of time, -6. Yes, reduction, you know. Experiencing chronic hopelessness and sadness, -14. School is usually clean and tidy. Well, we got to work on that. All right, that's our big trend. You know, I think we've had growth over time, and there was a lull, but you know, we got to go back to it. We've had some improvement. But if you really look at it, we are really looking at the right direction. You know, looking at the research, and so looking at data with the students and their thoughts. I think we're headed in the right direction. We're making some progress in the climate of the middle school. And I think our changes in what we've done, not just the minutes, but in the block schedule, but just in general, but it gives you kind of a sense we're heading in the right direction. So we're doing something right. Steps. So this is what he's talking about. What are the next steps? So if you go, you think about it, we got to continue at the current schedule. We just started it last year. In fact, we only did 2 out of 3 trimesters. We started with a 1 through 7 because we needed to ease into it. That was a discussion that Marla and I had about bringing up a runway to get ready so that they would be ready for a block schedule, because it wasn't easy. There were certain departments that were absolutely angry about the block schedule, still to some degree, but they had to get some adjustment to it. Like, what ideas could you do? And we spent a whole trimester trying to come up with, well, try this, do this, and they came to talk to us. There's still some concerns, and so I have to be clear about that. We have to look at the effectiveness of longer periods. It does have a positive effect in some ways, but is this truly the right answer? I'm not convinced. And you heard it from Charlie. I mean, there's a lot of teachers who are like, well, I see the positives, but I see the negatives. And to be candid, and I'll just repeat what Charlie said, is like, there's no one right answer. There's no perfect schedule. There is, you know, everyone says, oh my God, I hate this, or I love this. And, you know, you're going to just, you know, it's good for some, it's not good for the others. So we are going to continue with a BIS schedule committee of parents and students and teachers and staff. And we can work with our site council, we can work with our leadership team, we can work in our staff meetings to really kind of flesh out some of the goods and the bads and the uglies and what might be possible. I'm always, you know, always work to the most productive use of our time. That's going to be important. So maximizing our minutes, making sure there's time for teachers to teach and learn, stress levels down, and preparing them for high school. Again, you know, one of the things why we chose this is a modified version of what the high school has. 90% of our kids, 90% of our kids go to VHS, which has full block schedule, 4 days a week, not 2 days a week. So, you know, it's not the perfect answer, but it's something that we're going with, and we just wanted you to be aware that hey, we're willing to reflect and change and modify. But we're gonna try for one more year and gather things, you know, and I think Charlie really gave a good balance of what's out there, because it's not just one, yay, we love it, let's go with it. All right, next. I will say in summary, less context means less discipline issues. The students will be more connected with their teachers if they have longer times together. Less homework, because they'll be able to address the homework, and there'll be longer periods of time to be able to address that. Less transitions means more time to focus on the learning. So those are some bottom lines that I think we can take away and really continue in whatever instructor means we choose in the future. Okay. Great, I'm open to questions.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Thanks, Charlie. Questions?
I had a couple questions. So when you all were discussing this, what was sort of the balance that you saw between a full block versus kind of this modified block versus?
No one wanted a full block
Okay.
because that whole idea of losing prep
Mhm.
is hard.
Yeah.
And really, that's something that I need to look at. What we have done to make it easier for people, it's even worse than you think, because sometimes teachers have to cover for other teachers during their prep. And what we said is, we will never have you have to cover a full prep during your prep. We'll cut it in half. And so we'll have 2 teachers cover. So we're coming up with little ideas like that to make it a little bit better for people. Isn't, again, Charlie is right. It's like, there's no perfect answer, but we're trying to mitigate the problems.
Can I just jump in here real quickly? Thank you for upping the sub day. Seriously, this changed everything. Appreciate that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
And then I guess one other question just comes up, you know, thinking with my teacher hat on for a second. You know, thinking about a curriculum that's laid out with lessons 5 days a week. And I think to your point that it's sort of hard, you know, if my Tuesday and Wednesday are combined and I'm doing them both Tuesday, you're not gonna do one whole lesson. And then Sunday say, okay, snapping my fingers and starting over from the beginning. So how, I'm sure there's lots of creative solutions to sort of account for that 5th lesson, you know, that is sort of in there. So
Yeah, it kind of goes to what I was trying to get Charlie to talk about, is there's times when you can do enrichment, to take time to go a little deeper in a subject. You know, it's especially history, we're both history buffs. So it's great to go into something like, you know, an activity or a game or a, you know, gamification of something. So there has to be, I think it's good because it offers opportunity to give time to do new instructional methods. Because again, curriculum is great, but really engagement is just as important to get kids. So I would say it's a trade-off. You know, it's like, don't forget the engagement part. And if you're really planning something fun to engage them for an hour instead, wow, they're gonna remember it forever. Science class. Man, stretch out those labs. There are looking into things. I love going into, you know, the 8th grade and the 7th grade or 6th grade science class when they're doing the lab and they have the time to really check things out, see the evolution. Because chemical reactions take time. It's like, look, we saw this change. So those are some of the things that I think teachers have to be in helping support that. You know, we didn't go right into it, and I still want to continue it. It's like longer periods need better planning and more planning. And so providing that time to plan is critical. And so I don't think we've done that effectively. I think we need to do that more. And so that's kind of my take on what you're saying. It's like, yes, you can do it, but you gotta have planning time and collaboration time to give you the opportunity to get that done.
And then just one other question, on some of these schools that have a longer lunch, do they have a longer school day or how does?
I'm not gonna answer that because I don't really know the answer to that, but I
Yeah,
think.
they would in theory have to extend, so.
Yes.
BIS ends at 3:15, then, you would have to start on 3:10, you'd have to end at 3:25.
Not necessarily, not all of them have, so we actually go, in Burlingame, we go over the instructional minutes that are required by the state of California. So not necessarily, it depends upon how many minutes each school district does. We actually are already over the minutes, but we really believe the instructional minutes in the classroom. So it just depends on that.
Exactly, it could be a trade-off,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you take a few instructional minutes away to have a little bit longer lunch. And again, you know, it talks to something that Charlie was talking about, getting the kids to have a little bit longer interactions, not that, to have a more healthy lunch, a little extended time. not a bad idea. Maybe that's something that we can evolve to.
Yeah.
Maybe we stick with the block schedule, but have a little longer lunch and take a few minutes on the block schedule and kind of make it work a little bit better, so it's not.
And I just, for clarification too, I know I've seen lunches. Mr. Land, can you just clarify that lunch for me real quick?
To be very clear, with the exception of pizza day. I've clocked it. All lunches. 8 to 9 minutes is the max that they're in that line.
Start to
The
finish.
last guy, I'm talking the last kid to eat, I clocked it. 8 minutes. That's been the regular average every day, except pizza day. Pizza day sucks. But, but we've come up with a new strategy and have 2 lines going, and we're trying, again, just trying to come up with solutions, but yes, I would completely agree.
And we're working on pizza day.
We're working on it.
I'd be curious, as you're looking towards the end of this year with the committee, what it would look like if even on the 2 block days, if there was maybe room for a little longer lunch, that could be something, and just kind of see how that plays out, and then, that would.
I think we just came up with an idea that we're gonna do.
It seems like
I would caution Tuesdays are a short day, so you have to watch daily instructional minutes, so there's things to take into consideration. But I think that that's a great idea for the committee to definitely look at, but the Tuesday short days, so really.
It'll be a hard one.
To take into,
But we might be able to take it away from advisory, which is something
Right.
that maybe we don't need as long an advisory.
Right.
Maybe we do, it's gonna be a trade-off, yeah.
As a teacher, may I say, we don't have a prep on those days. But we really achieve this situation.
yes. So maybe the advisory is what we were, yeah. Good thoughts for Tuesday.
Yeah.
Great, any other questions? Great, well, we have a motion to approve the BIS spell schedule.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Great job, you, Ryan.
I just want to thank all the people who helped me, including Matt. Double ones.
All right, the next item is item 10A, potential bond measure. And we have a public
Jeremy
comment
and Brian
from, Mr. Ryan.
Both of them. You can make them.
Oh, gotcha.
Jeremy and Brian, make them Campbell.
I urge the board to reject the proposed contract with Godby Research, $37,475. Reconsider the entire approach to COLA for 2 fundamental reasons. Number 1, Godby Research work product is completely unprofessional. The American Association of Public Opinion Research sets standards for survey methodology in the United States of America. Most reputable pollsters follow AAPR standards, including Gallup, Pew Research, University Polling Centers, etc., requiring full disclosure of methodology, response rates, making blind, anonymized raw data available for public inspection. Godby Research consistently fails to meet these basics. In 2024, Burlingame School District paid Godby $40,000 to conduct the survey in advance of Measure G. Their survey violated every core principle of the AAPOR standards. No response rate was reported. Industry requirement. Raw data was withheld from us taxpayers who funded it. Methodology, completely incomplete. How it was weighted, what variables were used, what the weighting targets were, no information about how they ensured data quality, handled non-response, verified response identity. Sampling flaws were probable. Interestingly, my wife and I happen to be among the 2024 501 survey selections. Either an immense coincidence, but most likely grossly poor sampling. The exact number of married couples in the 501 sampling size continues to be completely concealed from us Burlingame citizens and taxpayers. All detailed error calculations have and continue to be completely concealed from us Burlingame taxpayers. Public records request denied. Burlingame School District responded to my public records request dated March 30, 2024 regarding the Godby methodology, raw data and data analysis that Burlingame School District has no disclosable records responsive to my request. The new contract contains zero requirements for professional standards or competence. We likely are paying yet another $37,000 for an unreliable product with no accountabilities. Details concealed from Burlingame taxpayers and citizens. Simply put, this contract, like prior Godby contracts, is a complete fraud against the people of Burlingame. The number two problem is the fundamental math problem. Even with perfect methodology, with a sample size of 400 out of a population of 17,000, you still have very large uncertainty. Basic statistics show with this sampling, you'd have a sampling error alone of plus minus 5%. And then non-sampling errors, response rates, coverage gaps, weighting mistakes, is typically equal in size to the sampling errors. So you, or twice. And remember, Godby's are likely even higher because he disregards AAPOR standards. So you have a total error of 10 to 15%. If a measure shows 60% support, that would mean actual support could range between 45 and 75%, making it just simply useless. A better alternative, community-driven research. Instead of wasting taxpayer money on statistically worthless polling, use community engagement methods. Town halls, focus groups with diverse community representation, online surveys through district and city communication channels, precinct level analysis of past voting patterns. I volunteer, free, no cost to the district, to help design and implement this approach. Reject this contract. Redirect the $37,000 towards teachers, classrooms, where it actually benefits. Let's invest in education, not charlatans masquerading as pollsters. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Right. Good evening. We are bringing forward tonight a presentation. Yep, that one. That's it. Thank you. We should have two people on Zoom split in too.
Okay.
We're just taking a second to let our two of the presenters in this evening.
Can you all hear me all right?
Yeah, you're the worst.
I'm not sure if you all can hear Brian or I.
Jeremy and Brian, just a second, we're trying to fix our.
Yeah, you can't see them because they're not going to be broadcasted through.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're not able to see them on this? Okay,
The audience can, but
okay.
yeah.
Are we able to hear them?
I'll try.
Okay.
They can go for it and see if they can say something.
Jeremy, can you speak for us, please?
Yep. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, they can't, or we can't hear.
I don't know. We don't have a good audio thing for this one. Yeah.
How about now?
No.
Nope. I don't even know where the mic is.
Can you have them call the cell phone? Does that work? Jeremy and Brian, can you call my cell phone? So we can have them call in my cell phone?
You want me to call your cell phone? Is that what you're saying, Marla?
You guys want to call my cell phone? I can take it on my speaker.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
What's the phone number?
Brian, I'll call you and then patch us together.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Brian? Okay, Jeremy, can you speak? Okay, everybody can hear. Do we want to have Brian call in?
Yeah, Brian has been worked in.
Brian, can you speak, please?
Yeah, I can hear, everybody.
Okay,
And the folks in the back here? Yes?
okay, everybody here can hear. Okay, great. Good evening. Sorry for that delay. Thank you for bearing with us with the technical difficulties. Tonight, we are here talking about Bond 101, and we are here with presenters Jeremy Hauser, founding partner of Team Civex, and Brian Godby, president of Godby Research.
All right, I will, hop in, and hopefully you'll get used to recognizing which voice is which. My name is Jeremy Hauser, a founding partner with Team Civic. We're a political consulting firm that specializes in helping school districts and other public agencies prepare measures for the ballot and meet their revenue goals through public ballot measures. I personally have had the pleasure of working in Burlingame School District for many, many years, dating back to 2016. Most recently, we worked on your successful parcel tax measure, Measure GG, last year, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to partner with you all again. You go to the next slide, please. Our firm has a lot of experience within your district limits, but also throughout San Mateo County. We've worked in virtually every corner of the county, every level of government, passing on parcel taxes, sales taxes, and other revenue measures for school districts, cities, transit agencies, and more. And look forward to leveraging that experience, helping you all as you explore the possibility of bond measure in the future. I'm going to give Brian to kind of walk through his experience as well. Next slide, please. Hi, members of the board. I'm Brian Godby, president of Godby Research, and similar to Jeremy, we have extensive research in San Mateo County, Burlingame, and throughout the state. I've been doing survey research for more than 35 years. Godby Research was founded in 1990. We have specialized in local revenue measures, which are a breed of survey research that is very unique. We have run more than 300 school districts since 2010, and our total revenue raised for cities, schools, and counties since the founding of the firm is approaching $60 billion. That billion with a B, dollars, and our successful approach, which based on our experience and innovation over the years, we were the first California pollster to do email invitations to online surveys in addition to phoning. We're the first pollster in California
to do text invitations to online surveys in addition to cell phones and landline calls. Obviously, landline calls are coming in the past, but we have really led the way in doing the methodology that makes these measures successful. I will continue to be the project manager for the district as I have since 2009 for 9 different projects. And we're looking forward to working with the district in the next project. Next slide, please. And this just summarizes, as Jeremy did with the district we work for in County. As you can see, between the two of our firms, we really work for every district in Denver County. So, next slide and kick it back to Jeremy. Thanks, Ryan. So we thought it'd be helpful if we took a few minutes just to kind of walk through the legal parameters of bond measures and kind of set the stage for what is and is not possible as you consider a measure to bring in revenue for facility improvements. This slide really should be called Prop 39 Bond 101 because specific to Prop 39, which was passed in 2012, and most importantly, lowered the voter threshold for approval for a bond measure from 2/3 to 55%. And in order to seek a bond measure at the 55% threshold, you need to hit a few different requirements. First and foremost, as an elementary school district, you must limit your tax rate to $30 per 100,000 of assessed value in your district. It's important to note that's based on assessed value and not current market value. For many of the homeowners in your district, those two numbers are going to be quite different. In order to qualify as a Prop 39 bond, you must also hold your election on a regularly scheduled election. We have a slide here in a few minutes on the upcoming elections that would be available to you under Prop 39. It's also required that you have an oversight committee that oversees the use of funds to ensure that if your measure is approved, you are spending the bond dollars only on approved projects from your project list, which would be in the resolution that you would adopt following an election whenever you decide to do that. And then finally, funding from a bond measure is limited to facility improvement. You cannot use it for salary, you cannot use it for programming. It's really got to be used on buildings and facilities. And that's a mnemonic, B bond for buildings. That's a nice way to remember how exactly you can use those funds. Next slide, please. You in Burlingame School District are really an exemplary district when it comes to a track record of success at the ballot through general obligation bonds dating back to 1993. You've been on the ballot 6 different times. I think it's important to know that starting in 2012, you were on a streak of essentially going to the ballot every 4 years to ask your voters for additional approvals to improve the facilities in your school. And you'll also notice here that each subsequent authorization, your bonding capacity is increased. You started with your first bond at $12 million. Your last bond in March of 2020 was at $97 million. That really shows the assessed valuation growth you've seen in your district over that time. You'll see in a few slides here that your assessed valuation is growing even more, and your overall bond capacity is larger than it was in March of 2020. On this next slide, I'm actually going to kick it to Marla to walk through at a high level some of your current facility needs and some projects that potentially could receive funding from a future bond measure.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. And interim executive director of the school, Baker, if you feel free to jump in too. Some of the things that we've been looking at are the updated data infrastructures at all of our sites. Some of our teachers in the audience, I'm sure, know how wonderful our Wi-Fi could be at times. New keyless access systems at all of our sites instead of keys. We have lost some keys throughout the time, and making sure that we have keys for our sites that we can turn on and off. Replace our aging fire alarm devices, as we would like to update those. Classroom modernization at elementary schools and different sites. When we did our last set of modernizations, building 7 and 8 up at the top of BIS, those were newer buildings. Those were built in '97. So those are now 30 years old. So thinking about modernization, that's kind of what we look at. In our current NPRs, Our libraries were not classroom facilities, our libraries in our elementary schools haven't been touched for modernization. So those are some of the areas that we have not done previously. Internal plumbing replacements at our different sites. Washington, McKinley, Roosevelt are all schools over 100 years old. We've had pipes burst under some buildings and not realize it. We've had pipes burst in classrooms and even throughout. So just looking at really redoing some of our pipes throughout before we have more incidents. Replacing the annex building at Roosevelt, the main entry at Roosevelt, the one-story buildings at Washington, looking at that, where the Washington aging elevators at Washington and McKinley are on it. Music maker portables at Franklin, consider expanding the Hoover playground into the hillside. Additional fencing at sites. We have some fencing opportunities at some of our schools where it's coming in extremely high. So making sure that it's safe. Exterior stucco at Washington around the NPR. Remaining windows at Washington, historically, we weren't able to redo all of them. We have a lot of single pane windows in some of our older schools that are 100 years old that we need to redo. Replace windows at Lincoln. Window coverings at all of our sites. A lot of our window coverings still have the strings that we need to redo. Exterior painting at some of our sites, Hoover and McKinley were painted this year, but most of our sites have not been painted. Exterior lighting replacements, furniture in our admin offices, possibly the new maintenance garage. We were not able to pull that out of this bond. Drop off at BIS to align with Clarice. Right now, our driveway is just about 100 yards off of the street across. Drop off improvements at McKinley. Parking lot drop offs and reconfigurations at Franklin. We've been working with the city based on the issues with the Franklin drop off. And then also fund any remaining projects in Measure O that we currently don't have. Ms. Baker, is there anything that you would add to this?
I would just note that we've been talking about developer fees for TK as well as deferred maintenance. So we also have those. So the bond program is a big portion of that, but that's something that we meet monthly with DTA to determine where those funds come from. If it can come from deferred maintenance or developer fees or the bond.
So what Ms. Baker is saying is that we look at where we can save our current bond money and move in these other funds so that we are saving our current bonds, make sure that we are only using bond fees or bond funds currently to make sure that we're utilizing it and spreading stuff around for where we are. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So next slide, your financial advisors at TNN Public Finance have run some analysis of your current bonding capacity. I think it's really important to caveat that I am first and foremost a political consultant and not a financial advisor, so any specific questions I would have to be direct to them. But at a high level, really what we're looking at here is what legally you could put on the ballot in the future in terms of the tax rate and the overall bonding capacity that tax rate would generate. So in the top chart, starting on the far right, we see that at the maximum authorization, that's $30 for 100,000 assessed valuation that I mentioned previously, you could generate $190 million in general obligation bonds. At a rate of 20 per 100,000, that number drops to 126. And at a rate of 10 out of 100,000, we're looking at a bond size around $63 million. Below that, your financial advisors have built out a possible issuance schedule for that full bond capacity, again, that $190 million. This would be further refined as we got into the process and got a better sense of what is and is not feasible. I would say those are recommendations that in polling, we start with the highest possible rate and work down. It's always easier to go down. It's much harder to go up in your tax rate. And so we would recommend starting at that $30 for 100,000 assessed and looking at what you can do with the full $190 million authorization. Next slide, please. So here we see the upcoming election dates that are available to you. And it's again important to remember what I was saying earlier, that under Prop 39, in order to qualify for that 55% approval threshold, you need your measure to be approved in a regularly scheduled election. There are 2 elections scheduled next year, the statewide primary election in June and the general election in November, and there are 2 in 2028, in March and November. Those are the only opportunities available to you in order to seek a Prop 39 bond in the next 4-year cycle. Next to each date, we've included the qualification deadline as the deadline by which you and the board need to adopt a resolution calling an election for the requisite date you see on the slide. Next slide, please. And then finally, we have a timeline that we pulled together based on our experience on successful measures in the past, timelines that you that have been on board when we worked together previously. It might look very familiar, but it's our recommended approach to making sure that you're setting your bond measure on the path to success, right? So we always recommend starting by testing your measure, by getting good, reliable, accurate data through lower opinion research, which is why we're partnering with Brian Godby. We recommend vetting your proposal by going out in the community, expressing the need to your community members and also soliciting feedback from them. We recommend building a strong measure based on the findings from the first 2 steps, what you learned in the polling and what you learned from the stakeholder outreach. And finally, only then do you transition to an independent campaign to get the requisite votes needed to pass your measure. Now, it's important to know that a school district cannot advocate for or against the passage of a measure. That's why that 4th arrow is in yellow. That work of campaigning and putting up warrant signs, going door to door, raising money must be entirely privately coordinated and fundraised. However, the first 3 steps can, in our experience, should be orchestrated by the district as you set up your measure of success. But tonight, really what we're looking for direction on is to engage in the first step of that process. You go to the next slide, please. It's that testing to get into feasibility stage, and I'll take it to Brian, talk about this in a little bit more detail. But really, before we make any recommendation on whether or not to pursue a measure, and if so, during which election environment and what funding priorities, we want to get the basic questions answered so that we can give you good actionable data in terms of what we think is feasible, when we think it's feasible, and how we should help package your bond and proposals so that's the best chance of being successful. And then with that, I'll give you to Brian to kind of walk through the survey process, and then we can answer any questions. Great, thank you, Jeremy. So this slide shows the survey process. It starts, of course, with the kickoff meeting. Jeremy and I meet with your bond planning team to talk about your facility needs in more detail. We review existing data. Of course, we have the last 9 surveys that we conducted, so that's readily available to us. We then work on drafting the survey, which is an iterative process. We go back and forth to make sure that we are testing the components of your facility plan that you're interested in. Then we're into the sample design phase, and that starts with looking into likely turnout for those elections that Jeremy listed. We're mostly interested at this stage of the process in the 2026 election. November is the larger of the 2, so that would be our target audience for the sample. And then June is a subset of that. We wouldn't really be testing a sample for the 2028 environment because that survey happens 2 years from now. There's no point in doing a survey that far out. It won't really tell you much. But our sample design is based on a stratified voter sample, and that means that we look at, in addition to the turnout that I mentioned, we look at political party age, household party type, city council district, because the school districts in the city are largely the same, own rent, presence of children in the household, gender, ethnic group, marital status, veteran status, income, education, and voting frequency. And we use all those to develop a sample that's stratified on the front end, and then after we're done with the interviewing, we weight to those factors on the back end. That's all available on the voter file or as third-party data that's added to the voter file. So we have a really really good idea of exactly who the voters are in any given district, and that's certainly true of Burlingame. From there, we're into pre-testing and programming our survey. As I mentioned, we do online and phone, so they're different because of SBC regulations. They're different programs for phone versus online, and that gets programmed. Then we're into the fielding process where we do make our calls and send out our texts and emails to get the voters that we're looking for. And again, remember, these are stratified by voters, they're not stratified by household. Then we're into the analysis and reporting stage, and presentation of the findings as the district determines is appropriate. And then we're available to support Jeremy throughout the rest of the process. So that's the survey steps that we go through. And I think with that, we would be happy to answer any questions from the board. I might make one request that if the phone gets moved towards the board member with a question, I know Brian and I will certainly appreciate it, so we can make sure we're getting your answer correctly.
Great. Any questions for Jeremy and Brian? Okay, this is Doug Brown. I did have one question. I just wanted to clarify the $30 per 100,000 of assessed value is per bond measure, correct? That's not a total.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. That's the only question I have. Great. So should we let them go? Or do you want to keep them on?
In case you guys have any other questions.
Are there?
Okay.
If you don't mind staying, we'll keep you on.
Sure, we're happy to.
Okay.
Happy to.
Thank you. Great. Any thoughts or this is our chance to discuss. I personally think this is sort of a large matter. Whether we go back to community for additional support, we just received a lot of support on Measure GG. So my personal opinion is we should. This is something we need to discuss. We only have 4 to 5 of us here, but I'd love to hear your thoughts or anyone who has this point to share. And I have some thoughts as well.
I guess my thought would be sort of similar that, I feel like we fairly recently went to our community and a parcel tax is different. But I think for most members of our community, they're sort of conflated, and certainly the effect on the pocketbook is similar. And I also see the list of needs that we have in our district. So I feel like I'm sort of at this point, depending on the recommendation from the district and district staff to kind of make a recommendation sort of, as far as what makes sense.
I would like a little bit of extra time to understand these needs as they compare to the existing bond measures that are in flight at the moment. I know we had some questions around like existing tranches for, I think, the existing bonds that are also still going to be right? So some sort of like priority analysis of these are the things that need to happen, these are the things that can be deferred, these are like the nice to have, or something like that would be pretty useful in determining if we should move forward.
So currently in our current bond measure O, tranche 2, we have about $14 million left that's assigned. In tranche 3, which we should go to sell in December or January, December of 25, January 26, there's about 24 million. 23 million is currently assigned. So there will be about $1 million in contingency of that. And all of that should be about depleted June of 28. Yes.
And if something were to pass in November of 26, when would that start being accessible? When would that money start being accessible?
I think once we're authorized, we can issue the bonds. That takes 3 months. So,
Okay.
Yeah. And once we have the authorization, I think we can do it.
Great.
Historically, Burlingame has overlaid some of the bonds so that when they do start to fund, if you get to a point where you have some projects in the works and you need some more contingency, you do have a little bit of overlay.
Yeah, so I think once we have the authorization, we won't have to do it right away. Like right now, we still have 30 million of authorization that we have that issue for tranche 3.
Right.
So, but we have it on the shelf and we can put the money in 3 months if we need it.
Right, that's, in January, like December, January, we're gonna do it. That's when we get it.
And none of the additional facilities needs are currently attached to that additional 30 million?
For tranche 3?
Yeah.
For the 24 million, no, that is correct. They are not in our current Measure O bond.
But we do have an approved project list that the board has approved for what has been, approved for the money. So if we have about 40 million to go and sounds like about 39 million of that's
Correct.
spoken for.
Correct.
We have a list of the projects and we can change that list. We can pick things up, we can add things. But it gives you a sense that, what we've already identified and approved as worthwhile.
And some of them are already in action too.
I'm sorry, when is tranche 3 forecast to?
We're we're thinking that we will need to go forward and work with KNN, our financial advisor, to sell probably December, January time.
And when is that scheduled to be fully depleted?
June of 28 is what we're guesstimating, we'll have closed out about June of 28 with the finish of our projects and complete close out of all of our bills and everything. That's what we're thinking. But it depends, so a lot of what it depends on, inflation of costs, if we're able to do the projects, if we're able, things happen, I mean, so we're giving you our best estimates, we can't tell you if we don't have actuals. There's been a lot of projects we've had to remove or change. You know that we took, for instance, the maintenance garage off because the cost went way up. And in the best interest of our students and our community, that was no longer worth it for us to move forward on that project. So you will see us come forward then back to the board and say, this is no longer something that is what we feel is right for the students. So we'll go to the owners committee, have a conversation, and then come to the board and make more recommendations. So to trustee, or I guess acting president tonight, Brown's point, this is our list, right? And it is, the money is accounted for, but it does move or change based on what's happening. We have had to also move or change based on things that are going, what's going on. And then to interim executive director, that's a long title, Ms. Baker's position. We've also had to use different maintenance and other fees for pipes and other things like that. So we're also trying to think along to see what that would look like. And things that were coded to bond for TK, we're using developer fees because that's expansion. So we move things out of bond and over to developer fees to save bond money.
And then just looking at the slide deck on slide 11 with the timeline, can we go back to that slide actually? So, yeah. So I know we need to be through through step 3 by 88 days in advance of the election. What's the timeline for from step 1 to step 3?
I'm happy to speak to that. You all can still hear me.
Yes.
Can you bend your mic, please?
So let's work backwards from step 3, assuming just the quickest possible election would be June. So we're looking at a March 6th adoption date, which means that we are building the measure, i.e. running the project list, the tax rate statement, sending forward ballot question in January and February of 2026. It means that we're doing the vetting process, the informational outreach, communication, blatant fall through the winter, probably wrapping up in January, but really leaving the polling to happen later mid-month and in September, so that we have the data back to kind of help us make a recommendation in terms of next steps. We always recommend that you plan for the soonest election, not because that's necessarily the right election to go for, but because it's always easier to slow down the process. It's really hard to speed it up. right? So if we got pulled back, came to your board in late September, and gave a recommendation on pursuing a measure in June, we really couldn't move forward in the steps 2 and 3 until we got direction from you all the board to start doing the outreach, the information communications, and start pulling together the resolution itself. You could also at that board meeting give us direction to pursue November instead of June, or you could give us direction to say, thanks for the information, now's actually not the right time to go to the ballot, we'll reconsider this in 2028. So kind of a long-winded way to answer your question, but I do think it's always important to plan for the shortest timeline so that you can slow it down if need be, and not the other way around.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
See, Nicole, did you have anything, questions or?
Timeline question.
Okay. Yeah, I'll share my thoughts. Yeah, I like I said, I feel like this is a pretty big decision. I'm not ready to approve contracts at this point. I feel like we need to understand the need and the timing. Not to say that I'm like against even the June 26th ballot measure. I think November 26th is more realistic, and we literally just came from the voters this calendar year with a measure, and to go out and start pulling them, next month when they come back to school feels too soon to me. I think there's only so much we can ask for, and it's either partial or bond or some combination. Right now we have both. I think from Marla, it's clear that the bonding is where the need is at the moment. And so that's probably what our next move is, but want to recognize you can't ask the voters to approve, higher property taxes every year. Like, we're not going to do that. I don't think there's a demand for it. So my thought is we should take a little more time. And also Dan's not here, not to say we can still vote, we can still move forward. But I do feel like it's a pretty big decision. So my personal, so that's one thing we can talk about. I'll have some ideas of maybe how we move it forward. Like get your thoughts as well. And then the other thing is the polling. Like I'm actually sympathetic to the public comment. The threshold's 55%. We got 72 on the measure GG. I don't necessarily think we need a pollster to tell us that we can get to 55. I think it's more a question of how much work we have to do to get there, and maybe the polling helps with that and says like, okay, you got a long way to go, you need to work extra hard. But I feel like if the community's behind it and we have volunteers like Mr. Bryant that are willing to go all in on a bond measure, I don't know that we necessarily need pollsters to tell us that we can get 55% of the vote. So that's my personal opinion. And like I said, I'm not quite ready to vote yes on either of these contracts at the moment, but that's my point of view. So on the GG measure.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I'm fine with holding off for right now. I would particularly be interested in hearing, from Dan and having a conversation with all 5 of us here. A lot of that is because both of you were on the board, through this last process, and I feel like having both of your perspectives would be useful. It sounds like as far as the timeline goes, if we defer this, for a month or for however long, we're still within the window where this is a reasonable goal that, something in 26, either in the spring or in November could still happen. So I would be very interested to see what your thoughts are as far as what we do at this point.
Yeah, so that's what we should at minimum decide. And I mean, anyone can make a motion to approve these contracts, and that's not on the table, but it won't come from me. So not tonight. So a couple of options. One we can vote and just see how we do. But I think if we want to have more deliberation, we can either bring it back next month, which we'll have 5 of us presumably, and we'll have some time to think about it and talk with Marla about it. That's one approach. We could form a subcommittee of 2 of us to kind of dig in and meet, non-public meetings, with just 2 people talking. That would be the correct approach. So we could also do that and have that subcommittee then report at the next meeting, or or maybe the October meeting, whatever made sense. At which point we could vote on that before. So I'm open to those or,
I would be very interested in seeing a subcommittee form, especially kind of looking at, as you mentioned, the options as far, around polling and the need for, a big investment in that versus what our other options would be.
Yeah, seems like we've got started on this nice and early, so we've got pretty long runway. That gives us a little more time to deliberate with our action.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess who would be interested in being part of the small subcommittee? I mean, I'm certainly open to it, but I don't have to be on the committee. I'm happy to get the feedback from the committee. So is there anyone that would take that interest?
I'm definitely.
Okay. Okay. Well, sure, yeah. Okay, so I guess we could entertain a motion to form a subcommittee to study this further and come back with a recommendation. Is that coach?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'll make a motion to form a subcommittee of myself and Nicole to meet as needed, talk as needed to study this further and come back with recommendation or some more information to the board to discuss in September, October. What do you think about October?
Can we hear one more time the timeline from Jeremy?
Yeah.
Just so I understand it. Jeremy, can I hear one more time from you? Next to the microphone. The timeline for just walking through test, vet, build, when?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do it for June again. I would say tested, that polling feasibility phase, ideally August and September. Vetted, the communication phase would be October, November, December, January. Build it, the actual creation measure would be January, February, in order to hit that March deadline.
Okay, and then can you give me November, please? Sorry.
Yeah, happy to. November, let's say we would do polling in September, October, November timing. Outreach, we can start in December, we'll probably roll it out in earnest the first half of next year, so January through April.
Okay.
And then we have May and June to, write the measure itself, meet that qualification deadline of August of next year.
Perfect. Okay, thank you for that. I just want to make sure I have that as my understanding.
You bet. I have one more question. So,
sorry, there's a question.
Yeah. So based on what you were saying about like signal that we have about the parcel tax and other things, so do we need to do all 4 of these steps? Like, do we jump straight to that?
I mean, I'll answer from I've experienced it doing this once, which is parcel tax.
Yeah.
And I'm just speaking freely here, we've got the professionals on the phone, but my opinion is that the civics assistance with design the collateral materials, running the timeline, running the meetings, giving us benchmarks for how many people we need to reach out to, how many doors we need to knock on. I feel like that is critical. As I said before, I don't feel like the polling is necessarily critical. There's some risk in not doing any polling, and if we lose, then that doesn't look good. But I feel like 55% is a benchmark that we can get to. And if there's some error in the polling anyway, so I'm not sure that the polling would. It's hard to imagine the polling is going to tell us that don't go out for the bond measure. I personally think we should design the size based on what we need, not based on what we can get approved. So I think we need to think about the projects and not even necessarily the individual projects as much as the spending rate. Like, when do we run out of money, and what are we comfortable with spending on capital each year? And so how do we need 3 years of that, 4 years of that? How big is that? So I'm not really comfortable saying we should go for 190 just because that's what the law allows. That's my thought.
So we have a motion on the table.
Okay.
Correct?
So yes.
I will second it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so motion carries 4-0 to form a subcommittee of Need to study and come back. October, you comfortable with that?
Yes. Thank you, Jeremy and Brian.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Next. Next item is 11, education part 2 of 2, 11A. We have table comments. Yes. 11A RFP for ELOC.
Great. I just gotta say, I'm so excited for all the things I'm gonna talk about today. They're all in their own way pushing us forward in really positive ways. So very excited by all this. And so we'll lead off with our expanded learning opportunities program recommendation to award the contract. Back in the June 23rd board meeting, we brought the RFP, we sent it out. We had 13 different vendors that went through the process. During that process, we had 8 reviewers making up a wide swath of our families, a family that was working, that had ELOP students this year, a staff that worked in ELOP, both teachers and staff, and administration. We had our new vice principal of ELOP, Danya Zalat, who also was one of our reviewers, and a couple of principals that took part in the process. After looking at it, and getting all our RFPs back, and looking at the results several different ways, we did a total score, we did an average score, and we also did taking out the highs and the lows, and seeing, and also even informally, I later on, sorry, Jen, I didn't tell you this, but I went and looked at like who was first in most of them and who was second. So in every measure, champions, the champion program rose to the top. They were our reviewers were most impressed that they hit every expectation we had, which was to have a dedicated literacy component, to have experience based learning, to have an active day, and also to come in our budget that we were looking for. Since then, we've also started having preliminary meetings with our champions people in anticipation that this program needs to get up and running in August. And it's been very productive and positive. And I want to just say that I've been very impressed with the partnership that we've established, especially with Salat, who has already showed a real focus and real vision for the program, what it could be, and is already talking about making sure that the program works with what we're doing in the school and brings it into the lessons that we're learning in school and reinforces them with the program. We've also started reaching out with Playworks and talking with them about bringing them in to work with champions so that those strategies that we're planning on bringing to our school sites, again, get into the after school. With all that being said, it is my recommendation to award the contract to champions as the expanded learning opportunities program that Brendan school district in the 25-26 school year.
Thank you. Last question.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment, which is that looking through the proposal, I loved all of the literacy components that were part of it. That's something very near and dear to my heart. And I would love as we move along through the year to hear back about how that's going and what that's actually looking like and as part of ELOC, something I'm definitely interested in.
It's great. It was one of the conversations, part of our conversation was having those kind of check-ins to see how we're doing and providing some technical support for the program so that we can use some of the same programs that we're using in the site after school.
Great. Any other questions? All right, I'll move to approve.
Do you want to say something?
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, I think please.
I am curious, the 8-member panel, as you were
Yes.
doing your RFPs, were there any other proposals that had any of the rubric items that were like this scored higher?
It's a good question. And the specific rubric ones, well, it was out of a 4-point rubric, so there was a lot of the sames.
Yeah.
There were really 3 that rose to the top. It's really separated themselves from the rest of the pack. There was some that just weren't going to be for us. And out of the 3 champions, again, rose up. One specific thing, champions average, it was 61 out of 72 points. So that's pretty good for they topped out in most things.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve, Champions as the ULOC provider for the contract. All those in favor? Right, aye. 4-0.
Shouldn't be useful.
All right, item 11B is the we have a public comment. It's the adoption of the University of Florida Literacy Institute work study program. And we have a public comment from Sarita Porta.
Oh, I was actually gonna go after, is that okay?
We actually take a
Oh,
public
man.
comment first, so that we can make sure we ask questions of the speakers that incorporate it.
Can we?
Well, is this working? Yeah, doesn't matter. I'm Sarita Porter, the reading specialist at Washington, and I'm here to support the Youth Life program. I'll be presenting about it, and we have Stephanie Garcia here that's going to be sharing some information as well. So I'm just here to support that the program is something that we will all succeed in. It very much parallels the training that the RTI specialists have had with foundation for the Wilson program. It follows the same systematic structure that we do in the classroom with the small groups of intervention. It is not the whole literacy block. It is part of the literacy block. What I mean by that is the day that your child is in the class, they're getting more than just this program. This is a phonics and spelling program with some letter formation, which is very similar to the work that I do with foundations. So when I saw this program, Stephanie and Sarah Bevilacqua just took it upon themselves to try this because we had heard really good things about it. They had heard really good things about it and piloted it and just jumped in. They're those type of teachers that will just jump in. And the students that I work with that are in their room that I do, I could see right away the parallels with the language that we use and what the children are learning. So I think it is a very good complement to the work that the reading specialists do. But even more than that, it's a solid tier 1 instruction. Tier 1 meaning that all children will receive this instruction. And we desperately need a very explicit and systematic approach. And when you see this program, that's what it is. You walk in, it's very user friendly. It's a manual where there's 5 different things that you do each week. But the children learn not only how to read, but this systematic approach. There's not a lot of guessing of what's going to happen. It follows this routine, so it works really well with teaching children. It also reaches the children that need extra help with reading and that are learning English as a second language, because it really explicitly teaches those tricky parts of English. And if you have a child or know anyone or learning English as a second language, there's a lot of nuances. Our language comes from many different countries, and those specific skills that are needed to understand how to read are explicitly taught. I spoke with Yvette Carrera today who works at McKinley, and she said they're using it in the DLI program for their English instruction for that reason, because Spanish is very phonetic, English is not, and it has really shown to prove that it helps children that are learning English as a second language. So they're going to use it first and second grade, a little bit in third. It is a K-2 program, but it can be used for small groups for those children that might need extra support. Oh, it's free, right? But I want to be clear. Yeah, I want to be clear because we do need money, and I don't know where it's going to come from, but we need money in the sense of a manual for each teacher, and there needs to be titles that are bought for the child to use to have like their own ABCs per child, right? So we're looking at those right now. So it would be very nice if that came from the district, that all students had some whiteboard for their writing, and these, they don't need to necessarily be magnetic, and they don't have to all be the same, but these tiles are the manipulatives that each child would use as they're learning the new strategy. So it's pretty free. I think that's all I'm And since I'm here, I just want to promote the work that the RTI specialists do. I know there's budget constraints and sometimes we have to make changes and look at how our money is spent, but I firmly believe that I am speaking here on behalf of all those parents of the children that I work with that would like to be here, but believe in the extra support that their child is receiving, whether it's with reading intervention or learning a second language, or providing a small group instruction to help the child. I'd also like to say, just a side note too, that you were talking about bond measures, and you were talking about TK, and I couldn't really understand all that, but Washington needs TK playground, and I don't know if that's part of the bond, but I'm just saying that out loud, that whenever TK and money and buildings, we're all growing with our TK community, and if you've been to Washington, there's not a lot there for the TK.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Sorry, Sarita, I think they forgot to turn this camera on, but it is.
Okay, one more minute. Happy birthday to Matt.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Sarita.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
So Matt?
So, yes, we go. Sorry, I'm sitting back. I wasn't expecting to spend my 30th birthday this way. I should say while I was loading it up that as someone who has a summer birthday, I never got to celebrate at school, and I do appreciate how great it was to be around my friends today. So tonight we're bringing forth the July program. So I would like to walk you through the process that we've made it through. Next slide, please. Slide. So we're gonna start with the history. So Benchmark is our adopted curriculum currently. It was adopted in 2021, and it satisfies our it hit all the requirements. It delivers our goals and our standards. What we did know though was that our word study program still needed work from Benchmark. So we were actively looking since 2021 for kind of an update to our word study program as the science of reading became more on the scene. Obviously, programs like Youth Life became more available to us. And it's Youth Life, for those who don't know, it comes out of the University of Florida Learning Institute. And it's basically looking at the simple view of reading, the Goff Tunmer. It's the D in this equation. So we're looking at decoding, and if you according to the simple read, decoding plus linguistic comprehension will give you reading comprehension. We're looking at decoding. So the overview, as Sri was talking about, this is a teacher-led program, heavily researched, like I said, from the University of Florida. It follows a lesson routine that is very easy for the teachers to implement and the students to follow. The advantages, as Sri was saying, it's very easy to use. It comes in a binder or a book that the teacher needs to use. It's very inexpensive. And it is really kind of a unicorn in that this is the first program that I've ever seen in my 29 years of education that I've not heard a negative word about. Everybody says this is an incredible program that is effective and gets results, and I'll show some of the results that we got this year. So we decided to pilot this. We had enough kind of, there was a grassroots kind of program that we received from teachers saying, you need to try this. And so we instituted a voluntary pilot program this year, starting in the spring, actually, for our K-2 teachers. It was a very short window of time where the RTI staff stepped up and as we was talking about, helped staff learn about this program. It has a very robust online professional learning program database that they were able to tap into, and then and we were able to implement. And so at this point, I'd like to hear actually two of our teachers, Stephanie Garcia and Bob Walsh, who were instrumental in kind of leading this charge and have really jumped in. Many of our teachers did, but these two stepped up to come and talk. So if you guys like to come up and kind of share your experience with the program.
I'm gonna hand this out, so just a
And just for everybody background, Stephanie teaches second grade at Washington and Bob teaches kindergarten at Roosevelt.
Was kinder, first now.
First now, okay, that's what I didn't know if there was a switch, yeah, moving up.
Yeah, so I'm Stephanie Garcia from Washington. I'm very excited for the new school year. I'll be teaching second and third this year, actually. But part of the reason why I'm super excited is to get back into the classroom and back into life. So like Sarita mentioned before, my teaching partner, Sarah Balakwa, and I were looking for something kind of lightweight to pick up at the beginning of the school year last year. But we really wanted something that was going to be consistent across both classes. And she had heard of UFly, and so we're like, sure, let's just buy the book and go for it. She had used it a little bit with like small groups or one-on-one. I had never used it before, so we watched a couple of videos on the UFly website. They have a really big digital resource library available to everyone. So super easy to find things to help out with model lessons and stuff like that. We did basically just need simple materials like whiteboards. We needed letter tiles, so we just made them using paper and printed them for like every other day. And we went for it. So we've been doing it since September. We did it till the last week of June. And so what you have in front of you is the data for my students from the 3 testing periods throughout the year. So try 1, try 2, and try 3. And it's 2 assessments that I pulled specifically for data. It's the BPST, which is like the decoding assessment, so phonics based, and then the ESI, which is basically a spelling test. But those are the 2 that are most closely related to what UFly serves. And so what you'll see is that there's growth in all of my students in one area or the other or both. And then what you don't see on that sheet, just because it's not the official data sheet, is that even in the ESI or the BPST, where there's not a lot of upward movement to the next level or the next stage, the actual scores were higher. So the numbers went up each time. So it was just really exciting by the end of the year to see all of the improvement. And for a program that was just really easy and simple to use, Sarah and I were trying to get everyone at Washington on board with us. So we roped a few more teachers in, but we're really excited to have everybody K2 on board with us this year. We think it'll be really effective.
Yeah. Awesome. I wrote my stuff down so I wouldn't forget, and I would be brief. I want to talk about, but my name is Bob Walsh, and so I'm teaching 1st grade this year. I taught kindergarten last year. I first learned about UFly Foundations at working as an intern teaching summer school in San Francisco, and I was also able to use it with my kinder students last year. There's a lot of catchphrases in education today, but 3 that come to mind around UFly is specific and explicit, cognitive load, and equitable teaching practices. So I'm going to talk about specific and explicit first. So UFly is a daily regimented teaching program. It focuses on specific aspects of phonemic awareness and phonics and explicitly teaches them to the students. For example, when learning about that A sound, the short A, ah, right? The lessons will show where in words the sound occur, how to encode, write the sound, how to decode, read the sound. It even gives detailed instructions on how to pronounce the sound. And I was going to read from my book, and I forgot the book, but there's a paragraph that says, you open your mouth wide. It's a continuous loud sound. Ah, continues. So it really tells the children exactly how to do this, which I think is wonderful. So the next aspect I want to think about here is cognitive load. The repetitive, predictable nature of UFly lessons helps to reduce the students' cognitive load. That information that they have to keep in their head to make sense of a lesson or complete a task. So I wanted to kind of quote from an older, established phonics program called, and one aspect of it called Alpha Friends. Some of you might have heard of Alpha Friends. But basically, it's a very popular rhyming and alliterative songs used as an aid to help students learn various letter sounds. And I won't sing it to you, but basically it's something like Andy Apple is an acrobat. Andy can jump way over his mat. Andy can jump just like that, and on it goes. So it's catchy, it's repetitive, and it's fun. It demonstrates the short B sound occurring both at the beginning and the middle of words. But this is kind of what I noticed, the Alpha Friend experience actually requires quite a bit of processing on the part of the student. What if I don't know what an acrobat is? How do I make a sound? What do you mean by way over? Or what does just like that mean? There's a lot going on there. This can increase stress and confusion if students come from different cultures, speak a different language at home, have learning issues, etc. UFly breaks concepts down into manageable chunks and wherever possible, relates new learning to something they've already studied. The lessons themselves are repetitive and predictable, so students can focus on new concepts that we're teaching rather than some of the other stuff that might be going on. Among my class last year, I had students from Siberia, Albania, Turkey, Kyrgyzstan, Brazil, Israel, and Mexico. All were learning English as a second language. In addition, I had a number of students with various learning issues. The specific and explicit nature of UFly lessons helped me teach all my students successfully. So this kind of gets to the equitable teaching practices. Because to me, equitable means providing all of my students with viable points of entry to the material. Right? I don't want to assume stuff that they may know, like it's way over, or I'm an acrobat, or whatever. You know, I want them to work on what they actually have to learn. So almost all my students were able to learn important concepts from working in the UFly Foundations program. So to finish that up, of my 18 students this year, half were below literacy benchmarks, actually double literacy benchmarks, especially oral blending and sound isolations. But by the end of the year, all but one of my students met or exceeded benchmark in oral blending, letter sounds, letter recognition, things like that. So it was pretty exciting. And I have to say this, I didn't do it perfectly. Although I've done UFly last year and a little bit the year before, it's a little inconsistent. It is a simple program. I would say it's not an easy program. It does take practice. It's a rhythm that you get into, and when you really get it going, the kids get involved and they really enjoy it. But it can break down. There's a lot of material to cover. So I would throw out that I just wouldn't throw the book at the teachers and just say, go at it. I would love to see some support for the teachers to really help them get going. I sat down with a couple of kinder teachers this summer about it, and we talked about it just for about an hour, and they got a lot of it, but I would love to continue to support them and make sure that anybody that does this program has that support. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Walsh, there's a rumor that there was a student in your class that went home every night and played Mr. Walsh at home with his little sister.
Yes, they're absolutely
Yep.
true.
We actually have videos of it.
Right.
So, well, sorry, no, it's the few results, and I actually want to answer some of, so these are from classes around the district. This is using our M-class composite score. And you can see that the dramatic increase from the middle of the year to the end of the year, especially with our above benchmark students. This is when the new flag was implemented. And so the next 4 slides, you'll see that kind of dramatic increase in all of them. So just take a few seconds.
And as a reminder, the M classes are online
Sorry.
platform for Dibble.
Sorry, yes, thank you. And these are all grade levels from kindergarten to second grade. Thank you. So, as Mr. Walsh was saying, we're not just going to throw the book at people and say, go get it. There is a great Youth Live video playlist. There's a great foundational toolbox within the website. There are implementation guides and tools. And like I said, great digital resources. But I've also reached out to Youth Live to see what kind of in-person resources they can provide. We're just kind of going back and forth on that. And Mr. Walsh actually brought up that there's a, what would you call it? It's not a conference,
Yeah, it's a conference.
a conference.
Yeah, 3-day conference.
Yeah, that we might consider sending a few of our teachers. We have worked out with that. We'll continue to build our RTI teacher expertise. It has administrative, help with our administrators as well, kind of understand the program. And like I said, Mr. Walsh is already demonstrating peer collaboration, and we'll definitely look at professional learning opportunities with in-person conferences. So I'm bringing forward Youth Live to become our adopted word study program for all K-2 students. As we move forward, more professional learning will come. There will be regular assessments will be conducted district-wide to make sure that we are on pace with this program. And I'm confident that our student achievement, we have a lot of data, not just from us, but from you. So,
this is second grade. These are incredible. Having taught for many years, second and third, and looking at especially the ESI, that's astonishing to see that.
Yeah.
So this is amazing. So excited. And I have heard great things about it in the spring, especially as people were implementing it. And I think it is so great that it was grassroots, right? That it came from teachers and then folks at the district were receptive. And I just feel like that's how it's supposed to be, right? And I'm so excited that we're moving forward with this. I hear that people need teacher books and whiteboards and alpha tiles.
So teacher books have all been purchased for
Okay.
everyone. Last year when we did the pilot, we just bought all of them.
Okay.
The 90 tiles that just actually came up today.
Okay.
So we'll that as well.
Any other questions? Okay. We have a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
All right, item 3 is, 11C is the approval of math digital platform. We have public comment. From Brian.
Agenda item 11C, the title was Imagine Learning Math Digital Platform. That I had a bit of confusion. I reviewed the agenda item description. I studied the quote from the vendor, and I clicked on within the quote, there was a hyperlink to the terms and conditions that I went to and reviewed as well. And so my first question is basically what exactly are you buying? Because the quote only lists printed materials on it, and there's nothing about digital platform licensing, online assessments or anything. So I was confused. I hope in your question of the district officials address give the community a little more clarity for the $107,000. The second part I want to emphasize on it is if you just look at Algebra 1, just look at in the quote. So just for the Algebra 1, if you add the print materials and the proportional amounts of the tax and shipping, it's $11,600 just for the Algebra 1 materials. So I want you to consider a zero cost alternative. And that's the UC Scout. It's completely free to public schools in California. So you could get all the UC Scout materials completely free. And then we could buy all the tiles and whiteboards for our kinder through second It's the UC Scout, it's fully AG approved. AG approved means it meets the UC and Cal State standards for freshman admission. And it's approved by the WASC as well as College Board. So the UC Scout is a fully approved Algebra 1 course. And it's with the app Canvas based, so it's modifiable by teachers. They can adjust it to their classroom needs. And there's more than just Algebra 1 offered in the UC Scout. They also have pre-algebra, integrated math, geometry, and a whole lot more. So, and even if, you know, I could imagine maybe you don't want to do all of algebra with this, maybe you could offer, you could talk to your teachers. You know, maybe one of your teachers would be really, look at what we just saw. A couple of teachers were excited to try something different, and they discovered something really great. So maybe you could offer your teachers and say, hey, you know, there's this other thing that's completely free. Would you want to try this out? And maybe we would land into something great like we just heard about. So thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
All right, Matt.
Absolutely. So let me explain, because that's actually one of the things I want to do. So illustrative math is our board adopted curriculum. It has several publishers. The publisher we were using was Kendall Hunt. And every year we have to purchase Kendall Hunt at to about $86,000. Kendall Hunt does not have an online program that goes with illustrative math. Imagine Learning also publishes illustrative math. It's the same curriculum, it's the same pacing, it's the same lesson by lesson. It's illustrative math. So, and if you change over to Imagine Learning has an online platform that we can use to assess, we can use to extend, we can use to have the students go at their own pace with their math. The difference in pricing comes with typically the online platform would be about $40,000 per year. So for the whole program, it'd be $120,000. In working with Imagine Learning, if we had purchased their materials, they were giving us the online program for free. Also with the expectation that in November, there may be changes to the math program from the state, adopted materials, they would change out our teacher editions for free if there is a change to the program. So that's why it's steered towards illustrative math, and that's why I included that invoice within that. That's the invoice for the actual Imagine Learning materials, consumables, and the teacher guides. The online platform comes with that at no cost.
And the timeline for getting everything in teachers' hands?
So, right, so my hope is that tomorrow I talk to our guy and we have training set up already for our new teachers on the 15th. For the new platform, we're arranging it for our administrators sometime in early August or late August, and then to the teachers after that. In general, just with the short time window, we weren't able to get them for the 19th. We tried.
Do you mean for the consumables?
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. I thought you were talking about the online platform. The consumables, yeah. So the great thing about the illustrative math is that it is an online. It's an open source, so we can pull off what we need. We're still anticipating everything comes on time, and we're talking daily with our person. But in the event it doesn't, we would have to print out lessons as we go.
The other thing is the first couple of weeks of school, there's an agreement that we're teaching expectations and not some of the core instructional components. So, but as Matt's saying, we are able to, it is an open source. You can go on any illustrative math website and find exactly the lesson that you want printed out and be able to put it in kids' hands, which allows for us to never have a blank complaint in that area. But the digital, again, like Matt said, we will have a digital platform, so we will have curriculum in their hands day one.
Looking at the quote, it looks like it's a 3-year contract, if I understand this correct.
The one that we should be one year
Contract starts says 6/1/25 and ends 5/31/28.
It was supposed to be the 1 year contract. That's the correct number, but it was a 1 year.
Okay, so is the expectation that this cost is gonna happen every year?
Yeah, it's how we've been doing it with our math throughout the years, every year.
Then the amount is comparable to.
It's exactly the same per book.
It'll go down less next year because we went by teacher's guides.
Right.
The increase this year is because of the teacher's guides, because it was a switching copyright.
Right, thank you, yes.
Any other questions?
I would just add one other thing, that the online platform was a major ask from our staff and from our administrators. Our math data is from 3 to 8. As inconsistent data to pull, this will give us a consistent look that we can really use district-wide to make sure that we're hitting all our math targets.
We had been paying previously for an online assessment that was over $30,000 a year on top of the curriculum too, that will no longer be.
Great. I'll make a motion to approve item 11C, the digital math digital platform. All those in favor? Aye. 4-0. Move on to item 12A. This is in our business and finance section. Resolution 25-26-3, governing board authorized signatures.
Great, good evening. I'm bringing forward tonight an update, resolution 25-26-3, updating our governing board authorized signatures. I'm asking tonight that we add our interim executive director of fiscal, Jen Baker, to our official board signature, please.
Great. I'll make a motion to approve. All those in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Great, thank you.
Well, B is the 24-25 counselor certificate salary schedule revision.
Great, I'm gonna pass this over to our interim executive director of fiscal, Ms. Baker.
Good evening. When we went ahead and looked at those certificated and the classified salary schedules for the 5.5% increase, we noticed on the schedule that there were 3 particular steps that had a typo. And to ensure that is not happening in the past, we will not be hand typing in numbers into our salary schedules, and it is done in our new frontline ERP system. And so we want to go ahead. We had 1 employee that fell under one of the typos in step 2, or pardon me, class 2, step 12, and that employee has been notified. Financially, it did not impair her because it in the frontline system, in the financial system last year and the one going forward, it did not affect her salary. It was just simply a typo in the board posted salary schedule. Question?
No question. I'll move to approve 12B.
Okay.
Those in favor? Aye. 4-0. Thank you. 12C is the 25-26 certificated salary schedules.
Ms. Baker?
I'd like the board to approve the salary increase that was brought to the board in the further certificated. It was brought to the board on the June 23rd board meeting. And so want to approve the BEA salary schedule for 25-26.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, 4-0.
Great. And the next one is the classified salary schedule that was brought to the board on July 15th for the 5.5% increase. And that will be moved forward in the monthly, hourly, and the licensed specialist salary schedule.
Great, I'll move approval of 12B. All in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Thank you.
Item 13, human resources, 13A, is a declaration of need.
Trustees and leadership team. We have our declaration of need, which we bring to board each August. I would like to highlight two things. We have significantly fewer requests this year, which is very exciting. And then we also have expanded our interns and our work with our universities. So at the end of the declaration of need, we list the universities that we're working with. So we're building those partnerships and bringing in student teachers and teacher interns, and that's always a very positive, healthy thing for our future hires. So I'm happy to answer any questions. It is a living document. It's something that can be updated through the course of the fall, especially during hiring season. But this is where we are.
Questions? Great, I'll move approval of 13A, declaration of need. All those in favor? Aye. 4-0. 13B. Laura?
Yes, so in our CSA contract, Article 7.4, previously we were spending $200 for protective boots for our maintenance and operations team, and we would like to make that more reasonable at a cost of $250. And our CSA was very wonderful working with us so that we can accurately reflect our expenditures for our protective.
Great. Perfect. I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
And then, oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes,
go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so for our psychologist intern authorization statements, we have two wonderful psychologist interns, and this authorization service statement allows us to acknowledge our interns and ensures that we can pay them their stipends with approval. Move to approve authorization.
All those in favor? Aye. 0. Thank you, Laura. All right, item 14, statement of board members. Let me start with you, Nicole.
Finish short summer and able to get back at it.
I'll echo that and add one more. I was very happy to see the BCE numbers come in where they were. So.
I just want to thank everybody in this room, other than 4 people sitting over here, for all the work that you have done. I know how crazy the summer is and how busy it is for all of you. And I just want to thank you. I feel like we're going into this school year in such a good place. It's so exciting. I particularly want to shout out the HR team. Just seeing all of these approvals that we get to do, all these wonderful people coming to help support our kids. It's just like, that's amazing. And that's why we're doing the hard work that we're all doing, that you're all doing. And I just want to thank all of you for everything.
I don't have much to add to that. Just excited to for the school year, and thanks all for the summer work. Everyone thinks teachers don't work in the summer, but there's a lot of people that do work in the summer. And it also just says great to see that all the progress on the campuses, the buildings, how quickly those construction crews came in, like after the last day of school was impressive. And hopefully they'll leave soon too. That's all for me. Public statements related to non-agenda items. I know we had one from Bryant, but I don't think he's here. Okay, so have no comments on non-agenda items, so no public statements. Item 16 is board requested items.
Are there any board requested items for me?
And I note that we have cell phone restrictions as our one carry forward from last school year, updated in fall 2025.
And I believe you all received the weekly update, you're able to see kind of our cadence for the year, so you can see where we placed cell phone device policy, our tech plan and everything else, so you can kind of see the cadence of where we place some of your requested items.
Anything anyone would like to add?
I don't have something to add, I just want to say something during this time, which is that literacy piece that I mentioned about ULOP is really important. So I don't necessarily think it belongs here, but this is, and I know the request has already been heard, but just I want to say again that that's something I feel really passionately and strongly about. And so I really want to make sure that we have ongoing data and ongoing sort of insight into what's happening from champions as part of our ULOP program.
I would like to add or at least get some more information about a possible free alternative to the 100K we spend every year with UC Scout.
Sorry,
So this was the,
so with regards,
comment.
Yeah.
okay. Are you Chaitanya, are you asking for me to, are you giving me direction that you want me to follow up on the public comment and you'd like me to answer it in the weekly update? What is our board adopted curriculum? So we have to go through a board adoption. So there's legal parameters around a board adopted curriculum that the state of California makes us go through. This is not our current board adopted curriculum. We go through a curricular adoption process.
Okay, then maybe it's not an addition for like a board requested item, more just a request for information.
Okay. Okay. And with regards to just, I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out like the exact, what's the part you? With regards to UC Scout, with regards to
UC Scout, with regards to a other curriculum that may exist that may be suitable compared to the board adopted one.
Okay, the math framework just came out in the state of California in November of this year. Matt kind of alluded to it, so we do, in November of this year, we're expecting for the State Board of Education through the California Department of Ed to release new curriculums. So that's why Matt was saying it's a one-year adoption.
Okay.
So they will release new board adopted curriculums that are approved throughout the state of California for districts to go out and adopt again. And that's the time when a district would go through about a year-long process to go through an adoption cycle, which is what we did for math. We did it in the 21-22 school year. And that's when we chose illustrative math. So after the state board in November of this year, hopefully gives us our list of newly adopted curriculums, that's when we would go through a new, like, look at all of our curriculars. And we picked iReady for K2, and we picked third through algebra. We picked illustrative math.
Okay.
And we picked the curriculum, and then you can switch copyrights. That's why we went from Kindle Hunt to Imagine Learning, because they have a great digital platform. Unfortunately, this time when we went with Kindle Hunt, Imagine Learning wasn't released in California. They came out 2 years later, I think. So that was unfortunate for us. Kindle Hunt was the only illustrative math. Okay. I can look to see if UC Scout is on the path now, but it might not make sense until after the state board releases a new list in the fall.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me. Just wait until the other one.
Okay.
And UC Scout starts at algebra, is that right? So it wouldn't be something that we'd be looking at for our little people.
So UC Scout is something that is typically used for older students.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So item 17 is public comments related to closed session items. Do we have any?
No, we do not.
Okay. Great. Then we will recess to closed session at 7:47.